This is Objectified, Mark Cuban.
Did you worry you would not be successful?
Oh, all the time.
I'm Harvey Levin. This is the story about a man who went from selling garbage bags to bagging billions.
I'm not gonna lie, it does not suck to be rich.
But there were struggles, failed businesses, evictions, massive debt. But he never lost his spirit or his passion for partying.
Mark, you are wasted.
Okay, maybe a little bit.
An internet startup made him filthy rich. He overpaid for the Mavericks and turned perennial losers into champs.
When I watch the last 30 seconds of when the Mavericks won, it still makes me emotional. I mean, there's just nothing like it.
Shark Tank made him a bona fide celeb, positioning him for a 2020 presidential run.
Scale of 1 to 10, where are you right now?
Mark Cuban, fearless in life with a passion for winning.
Mark,
What's up, Harvey?
how you doing?
Welcome.
Thank you. Now I understand Dallas living. It's not bad.
Not bad at all, right?
Let's get started.
Let's do it.
Okay. What's that?
This is the stamp collector's book that my mom gave me when I was probably 16 years old. And she had collected them as a kid in Pittsburgh. And I just took this and started collecting stamps.
So that's what you did for a hobby?
I did it not just as a hobby. I quickly, as I tend to do, turned it into a business. At a stamp show, there would be all these different stamp dealers set up around in this ballroom or whatever. And I bought a stamp, and I'd use the Scott's Stamps Guide to tell me how much it was worth. And it had been cataloged as one stamp, and I thought, you know what, they might have got this wrong. So I took 50 cents, quarter 50 cents, I forget exactly. But I ended up working my way through the room till I found somebody who agreed that this was the more expensive stamp, and I sold it for $50. And I'm like, I like this. I can get used to this.
So you were buying and selling stamps?
Buying and selling stamps, yep.
How did you become an entrepreneur at that age? You were very young when you started this.
I mean, I was an entrepreneur for as long as I can remember. I mean, when I was 9 years old, I would repackage baseball cards, and down at the park on Middle Ark Drive in Birdland in Pittsburgh, I would, repackage the baseball cards I had and say, okay, and one of these is a Pirates player. You might get Willie Stargell. You might get Roberto Clemente. And I would sell them and make money and then buy some more and keep on doing the same thing. When I was 12, I was selling garbage bags door to door. There was always something.
Your dad was a car upholsterer.
Right.
Your mom was a housewife.
Yeah.
So where'd you get that from?
I don't know. I think it came from the fact that my dad would always say, like I say to my kids now, if you want something, you got to earn it. Dad, I want a new pair of basketball shoes because I was a basketball junkie back then. Still.
Was it about getting stuff, or did you have dreams of being rich?
No, it started off getting stuff, right? It's like, and then my dad being very clear that, look, if you want those basketball shoes that you have right now, look like they're working really well. If you want a new pair, you've got to figure out how to earn it. And I think it started with that. And then when it worked, it was like, okay, I can do this. And then I can do a little bit more. I can do a little bit more. And then I realized I can sell. I sold magazines door to door. Mr. Levin, if I could tell you that for 75 cents a week, I can improve the education and enjoyment of your family, how could you possibly say no?
I would do the same thing in my dad's liquor store, explaining why they needed to buy an expensive bottle of wine.
Right?
When does it change from buying stuff to becoming wealthy?
I would read books about Ted Turner. I would read books about famous entrepreneurs.
When you were a kid and you start reading about Ted Turner saying, I could be a guy like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like...
And that's why you were reading those books?
Yeah.
They were inspirational?
They were definitely inspirational. It was like, why not me? Right, why not me? Why can't I do this?
When you were junior high, maybe, you were an overweight stamp collector.
Pretty much.
Were you bullied?
A couple times. Yeah, I had great friends, but yeah, I remember one time getting punched in the stomach and not responding. I remember one time playing pickup football and some dude kicked me, and I kind of went at him, but I had no chance. He just threw me down.
I also read that you had, on occasion, bullied others.
One time.
Yeah, tell me about it.
His name was Bobby Walker, and I punched him in the stomach. And immediately after, I felt horrible, just horrible. And I remember not saying anything about it for years, but my first high school reunion that I went back to, I saw him, and I apologized to him. And he was like, I don't remember any of it, but I'm like, yeah, I did, and it bothered me.
What'd you get from that?
that it wasn't just about me, and that, you know, actions have consequences, and that, you know, I was just wrong.
If you had grown up rich, you think you'd be as successful as you are today?
I don't know. I can't even relate. I can't even relate to the question. But I can tell you this, it terrifies me about my kids. I don't know. I really don't know. This is who I am.
Oh my God. What is this?
So my company, Micro Solutions, got named on the Inc. 500. I think we're top 40 fastest growing companies in the country.
Right.
You know, and back then, if I did something like that, we had to go have fun. And my buddies put this together and gave it to me. And
Venture Magazine.
Right.
Was there such a thing?
there was such a thing called Venture Magazine. They're long gone. And I didn't really get top entrepreneur, but to my friends,
Mark, you are
for my
wasted.
No, I'm just tired.
Are you just tired?
Just tired. It was a long night just contemplating life.
Mark.
Okay, maybe a little bit.
So how old were you here?
28.
No furniture. Where was it taken?
So this was the, let's see, 28. So this was the second house I'd owned. And my house didn't have a lot of furniture.
No kidding.
And so everybody would come, after we'd go out, my place was the place where everybody would come and crash or hang out or stay up late. You know, because after the party, there's always the after party. That was always at my house.
Wow.
Whatever I give to IU, it'll only be a fraction of what Indiana University gave to me.
I want to take you back to kind of the lean years, if I can.
Yep. So my senior year in college in Indiana, early summer 1979, and I'm like, I'm gonna start a new bar. And I took $2,200 or so of my student aid, and we bought this bar and renamed it from the Silver Dollar to Motley's Pub, took out all the disco stuff, put in a dance floor, a regular dance floor, and started playing rock and roll you could dance to. From Free, All Right Now, to, you know, Rod Stewart, to old Beatles, old Elvis, just anything we can get people to dance to. And there was a line to get in the door.
So, successful?
For a while, it was the hottest bar on campus until we got busted. We had a wet t-shirt contest, and which seems so obscene and so wrong now, but back then we were just copying what other bars were doing. And I carded everybody who walked in the door. But one of the girls who was in the wet t-shirt contest ended up being a minor on probation for prostitution. And the local newspaper put a picture of that, and her picture was in the paper. And that's when the whole thing started to crater, because they said, oh, she's 16. I'm like, we carded her. I carded her, doesn't matter. And then, you know, once you get a reputation that the cops are going to be in your bar every night, that ended the bar. That ended Motley's Pub.
Okay, so you're in Indiana, you're graduating. You put together a list of industries that you were interested in. What was on the list?
Cable, programming, technology, banking, things that I thought were up-and-coming industries, things that I thought I could grow with that industry and that were interesting to me.
Why did you go to Dallas?
I
hope the stories that I've read are not true.
They're all true. I had a bunch of buddies down there. They were living in a place called The Village, which was the world's largest apartment complex. And they said, the weather's great compared to Indiana or Pittsburgh, where I grew up. The women are hot and the economy is booming. Come on down. And I'm like, I heard something about the women being hot. Took my Fiat X19, had a hole in the floorboard, you know, had enough money for gas and oil, and the rest is history.
So you're this guy who is so focused on career, and what I read is true, that it was more about hot women than it was about anything else.
Isn't it always for a 20-year-old or 24-year-old kid?
So did you take advantage of Dallas?
You know, I lived 6 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment, and I slept on the floor. My options were severely limited. And I gained like 30 pounds. It was horrible because I had no money. And so literally we would go out someplace where you could buy 1 beer and just eat all the fried mushrooms that you could get. And so, I mean, I just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it certainly worked against me in that perspective.
So you're in Dallas.
I'm in Dallas.
You're laying on the floor, sleeping.
Nastiest apartment ever.
And so how do you get on track with business?
So I got job working as a bartender at a place called Lawns at night, and then during the day, I would go looking for jobs, and ended up at this place called Your Business Software. And so we went through the interview, and the key question turned out to be, you know, if you run into a problem with software and you don't know the answer, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'll get the manual out, and I'll read the manual, and I'll find an answer, because chances are I know more than the person asking. And they said, great answer, you're hired. And that was my first real job, my first job in computers. And as it turned out, I just loved it.
What was your goal then?
My goal, I mean, from as long as I can remember being a kid, was to start and run my own business. I mean, that was it, period, end of story.
And you didn't know what the business was?
I didn't know what it would be at that point.
So you were just fishing?
I was scrambling, yeah, that's why I put together my list. I had no idea.
Did you worry you would not be successful?
Oh, hell yes, are you kidding me? Oh, all the time. I was terrified, and I think that motivated me.
What does that feel like when you wake up in the morning and midday you're a billionaire?
It feels damn good. I'm not gonna lie.
So tell me what this is.
This is a plaque we got from the NASDAQ from broadcast.com going public, July 17th, 1998. It was the biggest one-day gain in the history of the stock market.
It was the IPO heard round the world, a stock that shot up 249% on its first day of trading last week, breaking records, creating instant fortunes, and leaving the rest of us asking, why didn't I buy that?
Well, this was AudioNet?
AudioNet, and it morphed into broadcast.com.
So this is a symbol of when you became a billionaire.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. That was the start of it.
Why did you decide to glom onto the internet? Because that was in its infancy.
I was always a tech geek, right? So my first company, Micro Solutions, we were one of the first companies in the country to do what was new back when people were just getting their first exposure to PCs. I thought, you know what, at some point we're gonna have to hook these things up together. And so we became one of the first companies to integrate PCs. So I named the company Micro Solutions for a reason, right? Because we're using microcomputers to create solutions. And I would walk in the door and I said, I have very specific objectives for your company. I want to make you more profitable. I want to make you more competitive. I want to give you an advantage versus your competition. And those are my goals. If I can't do that, then you don't have to pay for it. And so my strength, my real skill was, other than putting in the time to learn, was that I can put myself in the shoes of any business. You pick any type of business to this day, and I'll figure out how they're going to make money. I'll figure out their competition. I'll figure out ways to get a competitive advantage and make them more profitable.
When we talk about new companies and growth and success, there really is only one common ingredient across any type of business, whether it's oil or computers or software or anything, and that key ingredient is customers.
How old were you when you sold it?
I was just turned 30, I think.
How much you make?
So we sold it for $6 million. I paid off investors and partners and gave $1 million to employees. So I started with $2 million.
Okay, so you have been kind of a starving student, and now you're a millionaire.
Yep.
How'd that feel?
Felt pretty damn good. Yeah, I mean, it was fun.
How did you know you made it? What did you buy? What was the thing?
I had to fly a lot for business. I'm like, I wonder if American Airlines has a lifetime pass, because I'd love to just party like a rock star, travel everywhere. It cost me $125,000, which gave me 25,000 miles a year for the rest of my life. Me, and I could take anybody I wanted.
Did you use it?
Oh, hell yes, I used it. I was a rock star. Are you kidding me? I could just walk into any bar, anywhere, call any of my friends and say, where do you want to go? Want to go to the Olympics? Yeah, so we went to, you know, this is back in the early 90s, so we went to Barcelona to watch the Dream Team play, went to Moscow, and got to go to the Kremlin, you name it. Never before in the history of the world could you come in and listen to almost any team from anywhere in the world. A friend of mine came and said, you know what, this whole new thing called the internet, there's got to be a way to be able to listen to Indiana basketball from anywhere in the world.
And you went to college in Indiana?
Yeah, I went to college. I was a huge basketball fan. And literally, we would have somebody in Bloomington, Indiana, hold a speakerphone, put a speakerphone next to a radio, and then we would sit around the speakerphone drinking beer or whatever, listening to the game. And I'm like, this is crazy. And so because I had a background in networking, I'm like, okay, we'll figure this out. Bought a Packard Bell PC for $3,000, put in an ISDN line in my house, downloaded some software, and started going to work. And within a day, we had people from all over the world saying, we love this idea. And so we went, you know, we had 1,000 users after a week, 5,000 after a couple of weeks, and it just took off. We called it AudioNet.
Two internet companies are satisfying their urge to merge. Yahoo is buying Broadcast.com in a $5.7 billion stock swap.
You had a third interest, so you had about $2 billion.
About $2 billion before taxes.
What does that feel like when you wake up in the morning and midday you're a billionaire?
It feels damn good. I'm not gonna lie, it does not suck to be rich.
You are incredibly focused. How much of it is luck?
Well, luck is scale, right? Is being a billionaire, does that take luck? Absolutely. Anybody who's that wealthy will tell you luck has a lot to do with it.
I see you kind of as a paradox because you are a driven guy. You worry that somebody's working 24 hours a day to do you in, and yet fun is so important to you. I don't see the two.
Look, I get to do it on my terms now, right? My fun's a little bit different, right? I don't have to go out and get trashed every night with my friends. The best words that I hear anymore is when one of my kids says dad, right? Just hear that word dad, right? Just changes me. It's just like, that gives me chills. Just hearing them say that, or dad, I love you, just melts me. And so that changes the dynamic of everything, but it doesn't reduce my competitiveness. It just gives me a different sense of balance.
You do not apologize for being rich. There are a lot of people who kind of want to hide it. They don't want to talk about it. You
Oh, hell no, man. There's nothing better. I've had to worry about bills. I've had my credit cards cut up. I've come home and my electricity was turned off, or the water was turned off, or, you know, you name it. You know, so I've been there. Being rich is a whole lot better. A whole lot better, and there's no reason to apologize. And I hear from these people, right? Oh, it's such a burden. I'll take that burden every time. I mean, just, I've been on both sides, and being rich is a whole lot better.
You sound like a candidate.
I'm a concerned American citizen.
Oh, so am I, but I'm not a candidate.
I wouldn't run unless I have solutions. If I have solutions, then I have something to offer. If I don't, you won't see me anywhere near being a politician.
I like you a lot, but that was BS. Because, well, it was BS.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Rick Leventhal. Two Democratic lawmakers speaking out today about allegations of sexual harassment. Michigan Congressman John Conyers says he will not resign from Congress and looks forward to being vindicated, but says he is giving up his leadership position as top Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee. And Minnesota Senator Al Franken says he feels, quote, embarrassed and ashamed about allegations he groped several women. Franken says he doesn't remember the incidents, adding groping is not something he would intentionally do. Pope Francis leading a moment of silence today in St. Peter's Square for the victims of Friday's terror attack in Egypt. The Pope also strongly condemned the attack in a telegram, saying the violence brought great pain. The pontiff asking for prayers for his 6-day trip to Myanmar and Bangladesh. I'm Rick Leventhal. Now back to Objectified, Mark Cuban.
I love snow globes. Tell me about it.
This is when I was president. Sharknado 3. It is my great honor to present the country's highest civilian commendation, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, to Finley Allen Shepard.
I remember it. I was eaten by a shark in 10 seconds. You were president.
This is Lester Williams reporting live from Orlando.
Was that a precursor to anything?
Maybe, we'll see, but it was fun, right? I got to shoot guns and run and do stunts, and
I was told that you would only do it on one condition.
yeah, that I wasn't eaten, that I lived, right?
Why was that important to you?
Because I want to come back and do it again. I was playing president. I mean, if there's any role you can bring back, being president has got to be it, right?
Or you could run.
Or I could run. I don't know which would be tougher, Sharknado.
Ever enter your mind?
Yeah, of course.
That's a big statement.
Well, I mean...
Most people don't say, of course.
Yeah, well, I get asked, 100 times a day, and, I've always been very apolitical until this past election in 2016. I've avoided it. I think this election kind of just changed my attitude towards it.
Because initially, you liked Trump.
Yeah, I did. Well, I didn't agree with a lot of his positions, and I told him so, but I liked the fact that he was honest, outspoken, that he wasn't, like I told him, a Stepford candidate. I thought all those things were positive. I think we're going into an era where people want somebody who comes up with solutions. I think we're going into a time where you need somebody who can connect to people and relate to people at a base level and appreciate what they're going through. And I think I qualify on each of those. Now, whether or not I'll do it, it's a big decision.
So this is something you're considering?
Considering, yes. Made a decision far from it.
How does your family feel about it?
My kids love it. My wife hates it.
She hates it?
Yeah, and so that's the influencing factor as well. I mean, my family's everything to me.
If she says no, do you not?
We have a discussion. It just depends on it just depends on the circumstances.
That is an alpha response.
Right? Yeah. Is she anywhere? Is she? Yeah.
You kind of started this by I don't know whether it's audacious or snarky, but saying you could kick Hillary Clinton's ass and Donald Trump's ass if you decided to run.
That was being snarky and having fun, right? There's still a point of me, you know, there's a part of me.
Did you believe it?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm competitive and maybe a little bit arrogant, but President Trump has a great following, and they're not going to turn on him.
Why did you?
Why did I? Because exactly what I told him. I was really concerned about a candidate becoming president that was not making the effort to learn the issues. I would try to talk to him.
I'm confused. Are you a Democrat or Republican?
I'm fiercely independent.
But if you run, you're going to have to run one or the other.
Maybe.
Well, if you had to choose, what would you choose?
Probably Republican.
How come?
Because I think there's a place for somebody who is socially a centrist, but I'm very fiscally conservative. But I think there's better ways now to make government smaller than the old traditional Republican ways. Again, using technology. You know, government as a service can have a dramatic impact on how we live our lives. If you don't understand technology, and you don't understand the impact on jobs that technology is having and will continue to have, then you're going to run into some severe roadblocks.
You sound like a candidate.
You know, I'm a concerned American citizen.
Oh, right? So am I, but I'm not a candidate. You sound like one.
I have lots of time to focus on trying to understand issues, and so, you know, I wouldn't run unless I have solutions. If I have solutions, then I have something to offer. If I don't, you won't see me anywhere near being a politician.
I like you a lot, but that was BS. Because, well, it was BS because you have basically, your whole life has been about solutions.
Yeah.
And this is no different. So it seems to me that you're not just throwing your hands up in the air. You have an idea on how things should be.
I'm concerned.
I understand that. But if you have ideas on what the solutions are, then you've crossed that line and you're going to run.
No, not necessarily. Why? Right? Because healthcare, to give you a perfect example, I think I have something that can be repeal and replace and serve and deal and cover 100% of the people that otherwise have to buy individual.
You're making my point.
But I don't have to run in order to introduce it. I have to.
You just said that if you come up with solutions, then
I said I think. I didn't say I have yet, right? Because there's still a lot of work to be done.
For chronic illnesses and serious and life-threatening illnesses, that's a risk that should be shared by all of us. And, you know, that should be a right for coverage.
Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you're running, where are you right now?
4.
No.
4, yeah.
If your wife says yes, where are you?
5. One of the owners, old school owners, who's no longer owns the team, he was like, you need to just sit the F down and shut the F up because you've never done anything in this league. And I'm like, damn. I'm like, I appreciate, you know, but this is how I'm going to do it.
I have a feeling that has some significance.
Yeah, that has not moved from the back of this chair since January of 2000. When I bought the Mavericks, that was the jersey they presented to me as a congratulations for buying the team.
Why did you buy a team?
Because I could. I was a huge basketball fan. I was a Mavericks season ticket holder. It was the opening night of the 99-2000 season. My then girlfriend, now wife, and I went to the game. It's the first game. We're undefeated. And I'm looking around, and there's just no energy. And I'm like, I can do better than this. And it was like, hello, right? I'm about to come into some real money, and I should put my money where my mouth is. At that point in time, we were voted the worst professional sports team of the 90s.
So you paid $285 million.
$285 million, which at that time was the highest price ever paid for a professional sports franchise. Not just NBA, but NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball. Everybody thought I was a moron.
Well, I think you said you overpaid by $100 million.
Oh, I did? Okay. It didn't matter. It really didn't matter to me at the time. It was just, it was just one of the most amazing experiences, opportunities that I could take.
So what's the game plan? So they are a terrible team. Their morale was not great.
No.
So what do you do?
I walk in there and I said to the back office and I said to the guys, I'm like, we're going to win, right? We're going to focus on winning.
I'm going to give you every ounce of energy that I possess to turn this team into a winning team.
The ownership beforehand was, you know, they focused on money. They focused on keeping costs as low as possible. I'm like, those days are gone. We're going to stay in nice hotels that have room service, right? So you don't have to walk to 7-Eleven.
The players.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling the players. But I'm saying, look, if you don't bust your ass, I'm going to trade you. Instead of me sitting up in the suites like everybody else, I sat right there with the players.
Why?
I'm like, okay, in every one of my companies, if there's a manager's meeting, I'm sitting in the manager's meeting. If there's a sales meeting, I'm sitting with the salespeople. If there's a customer meeting, I'm sitting with the customers. I can't hear what's going on or learn anything. If I'm sitting up in the box, I'm going to sit right there. I want to know what everybody's doing. I'm like, I'm going to sit on the floor by the benches so I can talk to these guys and see what they do during the game. Next day, I get a call, we're fining you $100,000. I'm like, what? Like, conduct unbecoming an owner. I'm like, an owner of a business is supposed to connect and get to learn more about their employees so they can help them succeed.
Did you have to pay it?
Yeah, I had to pay it. The amount of abuse I got was incredible. I mean, other owners. I mean, there was one of the owners, old school owners, who's no longer owns the team. He was like, you need to just sit the F down and shut the F up because you've never done anything in this league. And I'm like, damn. I'm like, I appreciate, you know, but this is how I'm going to do it. But we started winning, you know, and so all of a sudden we went from the laughing stock to, okay, we almost got to 500 the first year, my half season. The next year we won 50-some games. Then we won 60 games. We went to the conference finals. By 2006, we went to the finals and lost. In 2011, we won a championship.
Why do you think that happened? The turnaround.
I think if you put people who want to work hard and have talent and you put them in a position to succeed and give them the resources they need, then great things can happen.
You have a reputation for screaming at refs.
Yeah, I do, a lot.
Check this out, Mark Cuban and one of the officials getting into it here.
You know, everybody's is wired certain ways. That's just how I'm wired. You know, it's cost me a lot of money, but it is what it is.
You once said that there was an official that wasn't competent enough to work at a Dairy Queen.
Yeah, no, it wasn't an official. It was the manager at Rush, the head of officials, who I said wasn't competent enough to work at a Dairy Queen.
You got fined for that, a lot of money.
Yeah, $500,000.
$500,000.
Yeah.
Was that a smart move?
Yeah, it was fun. You know, at that point where they were fining me for everything, I wasn't going to back down. I was on a mission to change the league for what I thought was the better. I think I've gotten fined $2-point-something million.
So it's the cost of doing business.
It's the cost of doing business.
Kind of rubbed it in his nose by working at a Dairy Queen for a day, right?
Yeah, and I had fun doing it. It was crazy. I learned so much, though. You know, is that other than the 917 to do a curly Q on the cone, seriously, 917. That's I can never get it right.
Terry gets it, and the Heat will not foul. Sean Marion dribbles it out. And the celebration will begin. The Dallas Mavericks are NBA champions. The first title in franchise history.
This was the Mavericks' first title. Of course, none of this would be possible if it hadn't been for the shy and retiring owner of the Dallas Mavericks, Mark Cuban.
You offered President Obama a 10% ownership in the team.
Yeah, I mean, if he can come up with $300 million, I'd be more than happy to sell him 10%.
Why would you overcharge a former president?
I'm undercharging him. I'm giving a bargain.
Really? Well, my understanding is the team is now worth about $1.4 billion.
Oh, no, it's worth a lot more than that.
What do you think?
Easily $3 billion.
$3 billion?
Uh-huh.
Maybe my favorite thing you've ever said is that Apple may become the first company valued at $1 trillion, but no one ever threw a parade in Cupertino.
The Mavericks win a championship, any major sports team wins a championship, and there's a parade with 500,000 to 1 million people. There's no other business where, I mean, I get emails every single day. My son or my daughter is having this horrific experience, and they're a huge fan of the Mavericks. Can you send them a signed picture? Can you get something from Dirk? Or, you know, it's just tragic. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, you know, my son or my daughter died, and, you know, can we get a jersey to bury them with? And you don't get that in other companies. You just don't. You know, it's just a connection that you can't get anywhere else. And there's a reason I keep the Larry Brown trophy right there, because it reminds me, it needs to be polished, but, you know, I still, like, when I watch the last 30 seconds of when the Mavericks won, it still makes me emotional. I mean, there's just nothing like it. And that's not about money.
If that happens next season, if you win again, will you go to the White House?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't have a problem going to the White House. My players, if they do, it's up to them.
You're going to give Trump a piece of your mind if you win the next championship?
Oh, I have no problem doing it. I'm not going to be shy. Whether or not he'll listen is another story.
Shark Tank is kind of the American dream for business, isn't it?
No question. That's why I do the show.
Well, there are people you've torn apart because they haven't thought it through.
Worst presentation ever. I'm out.
Critics have said that that crosses the line to jerk territory.